Let's get it. Stop, wait a minute. That body looking good and it's sitting different. These other females in the building.
What's up, YouTube? It's your girl Nurse Neek, and I'm back with another video. For those who are new to my channel, my name is Onika, and this is the platform that I use to document motherhood, entrepreneurship, and my journey in becoming a nurse. I am now in my second module, which a module is basically like a semester. It's about 12 weeks long. I'm in my second semester. I just started January 4th. That was our first day. So this has only been 1 weekend. So we have 11 weeks to go. The most exciting part about this mod is that we finally get to go to clinicals. I know it's very difficult, like, especially during this pandemic. Like, we honestly didn't even think that we'll even get clinical sites because it's just the risk of, like, bringing in extra students to facilities that's already full of COVID. But obviously, there is a shortage of nurses, so it was like a 50-50 chance that we will get clinical sites or we'll do it virtually. So my program basically broke all the students up into about 4 to 5 different groups. Each group has about 9 to 10 students. And they basically have assigned us different locations. Some groups can only do virtual right now because that site has had like too many outbreaks of COVID or whatever. So very unfortunate for them. However, I am truly blessed and honored that my facility that I was placed at still was accepting students. I had my first clinical experience this past week, and it was everything more than what I could ever imagine. Like, originally, obviously, we are always taught that student nurses are still held to the same standard of a licensed nurse. Just because you're a student don't mean you get to get off free, from doing things that you shouldn't. Well, I felt like being a student nurse will be limited to doing certain things because, we haven't obtained that license yet until we graduate. Well, let's get into it. So I was scheduled to go to this clinical site starting for 2:30. Actually, it's so funny that the facility that I'm at, I actually was hired maybe about 3 years ago when I had my daughter. I was, a couple months after I had her, I had got hired there. And I actually got hired at 2 locations in the same city. And I obviously went with the one that had more pay. So this was the one that I didn't go to. So when I drove up to the facility, I'm like, oh, like I know this place. But the name was not registering. So the company ended up getting bought out a couple years ago. So it's new management and stuff. So I'm like, oh, okay. So I felt a little comfortable at that point because it was like, oh, I've been here before. Like, I've been hired here. I never worked there actually. Like I never physically, I didn't even work one day. I didn't even make it to orientation because I had chose the other job. So yeah, so that was already a good thing because I was familiar with the area. I was familiar, with the kind of because I went on an interview there, so I kind of did research. I knew what kind of patients they had there, what kind of specialties they had. They make you do hand washing. You had to get screened prior to going in. Which I'm used to that because I work in a hospital, so I'm used to getting screened every shift, coming in for every shift, you get screened, which is them just basically asking you since your last previous time working, being here at the facility, have you came in contact with anyone who have tested positive? Do you have any signs or symptoms of COVID? They check for your temperature, stuff like that. So I was used to it. So after being screened, we had to go to orientation. So the orientation was basically what the orientation would be for a first day nurse. We had to sit, we watched HIPAA videos, videos about abuse. We just went through a series of documentation and paperwork. Prior to even getting assigned to the clinical site, our school had already did background checks, drug tests, and all those things. So we didn't have to fill those kind of documents out because they already had that information. But basically just saying our name, our address, and do we agree to the code of conduct, of the company? Do we do we agree with the code of conduct and stuff like that with the company. So we was just filling out forms and stuff like that. So it was very chill. They had snacks, refreshments for us. So it was a really good vibe. Like, going in, I was very nervous, of course, because you don't know what you're really walking into, especially with the risk of COVID. Like, you don't know how many outbreaks they've had. You don't know anything about really like what the facility is really going through or what they're doing at this moment. And you just know I'm here for clinical. So I was kind of weary about it. But I feel like, as the time was kind of progressing, I became a little bit more comfortable. So the DSD of the facility was like, to my clinical instructor, she was kind of like, so what do you guys, what do you want your students to do? And so my clinical, because this is our first mod. So there's people that's in my mod, in my program, that has never been a CNA before. They have never worked in healthcare. Never, they don't know the level. Some of them had never even been in a facility before, so it was new for them. So she was like, kind of for mod 2 students, we like them to kind of like shadow CNAs and basically like learn about ADLs, kind of go back like over some of those skills that we have learned in the skills lab during mod 1, just to become like a little familiar and get our feet wet, well, for me, it ain't getting my feet wet. I'm already a CNA. I do this every day. I know what it is to change a brief, feed a patient, pass trays, chart on a patient, intake, output. I do this. So it wasn't nothing new for me. So the DSD of the facility was like, well, the nurses are kind of like, they were excited to have student nurses come because we've had a shortage of nurses, and we thought like this would be a good opportunity for them to get on the floor and gain the experience as a nurse. And I'm like, okay, DSD, I'm with you. Like, I want to get my money's worth. Like, I want to learn and feel and see what it is to truly be a nurse, because honestly, any student nurse, you guys can vouch for me, but what you learn, or nurses period, what you learn and the way that you learn in a book, it's nothing like that when you get on the floor. You're not going to assess a patient and say, okay, step 1 from the book said, step 2 said, it doesn't work like that. You kind of just have to kind of find your flow and find your pace and find your balance. Basically, you have to find what works for you, and then once you find that, then it kind of you get a routine, a system going. The DSD, she was very she had really high energy. She was really good. She was very detailed and kind of straightforward. You could tell she's really by the books and stuff, but she's still young and fun or whatever. So she was basically okay, who wants to go where? She broke us up in half, basically. 4 or 5 of y'all here, 4 or 5 of y'all there. She was so you have the long term, and then you have the acute care. And so I chose to go long term because I know long-term patients, they've been there, they're there for a longer period of time, of course. And I know long-term comes with a lot of medications. And with this semester being in pharmacology and med surg, I feel like this was a perfect opportunity for me to be able to see different medications and get more familiar with the names of the drugs and classifications and stuff like that. So I went long-term. So she basically took each student and paired us up with a nurse. So the first nurse is the nurse I took, and that was the desk nurse. So I guess the desk nurse, you'll refer to that as a charge nurse. So I went with her because to be a desk nurse, it's not about just knowing the nursing aspect of it, but you have to be a people's person, really good attitude, very positive. You have to have great communication skills. And I was oh, okay, that's me. I know how to speak. I know how to talk. I know how to carry myself, even though I'm a student, but don't let that student title just hinder me from my ability. I know how to talk to patients and talk to families and etc. So I went with the desk nurse, and then all the other students, they got paired with an actual nurse on a med card. So when I came in, so 2:30, that's PM shift. We actually came in at a really good time because we had a patient who was getting admitted from the hospital and then a patient who was getting discharged from the facility to the hospital. So the desk nurse was like basically preparing the chart for the ambulance, contacting the family. So I was there with her, like, you know, I'm learning fast paced, hands on everything. Honestly, for it being my first day, I didn't even expect that we would even seen or experience what we did experience. Cause I'm like, it's just our first day. They're not gonna let us do anything. Like, you know, we're just gonna be probably sitting back, kind of like just watching, you know. I want to say to like other nursing students, what I've learned is just from that one day of clinical, take initiative. Like, I basically, anything I didn't know or I wanted clarity on, I asked, you know, like I spoke up, I talked to the nurses, like, you know, actually 2 of the nurses that were there on that shift had graduated from my school. So, you know, of course, when we were not doing, the actual nursing stuff, you know, I'm asking them stuff like, how was NCLEX? You know, how did you manage to pass pharmacology and med surg? How did you manage peds and psych and all these different classes? Like, you know, I'm just trying to get a feel. I feel like in life you get one opportunity or one chance, and it's like when you're put in that moment, what you're going to do with it. You know what I mean? So I'm like, this is my one opportunity to get all the questions and stuff that I need answered, you know, get as much stuff as I could, you know, knowledge is power, learn what you could. It's all free game. Like, I just followed the desk nurse for my shift. It was fun. You know, I learned how to put, you know, orders, prescription orders in and order lab, get the patient chart ready. A lot of that stuff was redundant for me though, because I was a med tech a couple years ago. So I used to work graveyard. So I've already had that experience of like, you know, preparing a chart and calling a doctor and having patients on hospice. I've had all that experience before. So this was like more of a refresher for me. To the nurses, because you were paired up with the actual nurse. The nurses was basically like preparing meds and we were passing them. Nurses would go on break. Basically, me and the desk nurse would like basically just pick up or whatever and help out wherever like help is needed and stuff. But I was able, all of my first day of clinical, I was able to do blood sugars. I was able to give medication through GT, through the G-tube. I did a lot of stuff as a student nurse, and I felt like it just was so, it was a sense of like accomplishment for me. Like, it was a sense of like, girl, you did it. Like, I just felt so good. Like, I mean, you know, obviously I didn't get paid for it. I didn't get paid for it, but like, I got paid for it in another way. You know, I got paid and it was very rewarding to help, you know. And honestly, a lot of the patients were so happy to have us because, you know, with COVID, it's a lack of nurses. You know, there's shortages everywhere. So the patients haven't been able to have such of a nurse to patient relationship these past couple months because nurses are so quick of like in and out. Here's your meds, gotta go. Like, you know, so we were able to talk to them and, you know, reference like, oh, what are you watching on TV? And how was your day, Mrs. Jones? And stuff like that. So I think they really, really appreciated it. The clinical site is a very organized. It's nice. It's beautiful. The staff was really nice. I even like on my downtime, you know, because I know it's this, I'm a CNA, so I know what it is like when it's like nurses feel like they can't help CNAs and stuff. Like, so when any downtime I had and we weren't really doing anything at the nurses station, like I would get up, I would do rounds, I would ask my CNAs like, hey, like, can I help you guys with something? At dinner time, I got up, I helped them assist in passing trays. I fed patients. I went on their last round with them and changed a couple patients, repositioned patients. Like, you know, I want to be that very active nurse where, you know, my staff can come to me and say, hey, can you help me? You know, and not feel like, oh, she don't want to do it because she thinks she's a nurse, you know. Not like, I remember where I came from, you know, I started off as a CNA. So I understand the struggles and what CNAs go through and being overlooked and undervalued. I go to clinical this next week. I want to look more into documentation. I feel like documentation is very important as nurses. Why? Because that's what saves our butts, you know? So say if something happens, you know, and God forbid it has to go to, you know, the to court, you know, one day or something. That whatever you documented is what could possibly save you from your license being snatched from you. So I just want to really know. And I mean, of course, I learned the different styles of documentation and, you know, giving a report and what's the, you know, being focused, you know, on certain things like S-bar and all that. But I want to like just see like how, if this situation happened, how did you document it? How did you word it? You know, just stuff like that. But I feel like it was a very good experience. I still have 11 more weeks left, so I have a lot more to learn. But for my first day of clinical, I feel like it was a success. I was not I was nervous in the beginning, but I got over it. Like, I feel like they made me feel very comfortable. It took some other people a little bit longer, but you know, everybody adjusts at their own pace. So I just wanted to be able to like to share that with you guys, to like, because I know a lot of people like, oh my God, what's gonna happen at clinical? What is it like? I mean, I know every situation, every facility is different, but I want to say like I am very blessed with the facility that I am at. And it's so funny because originally I got assigned to another facility way in another city. And when I got moved like a week before school, and I was like, why would they move me? Like, now I got to go from this city to this city. But I'm like, honestly, either way, I'm still going to be commuting because I'm coming from a further distance. But, like, you know, I feel like it was a blessing in disguise. Like, I don't have to do it virtually. You know, like I get to go in, I get to actually really interact. You know, it's kind of hard to learn nursing through a book. You know, sometimes you need the clinical experience. You need to sit in class and hear that lecture and interact with your teachers and your classmates. So I'm just very thankful and very humble to even have that experience. And I'm very thankful for the school, for the job to even allow our school to come and help them out. And I look forward to continue to, you know, work with them. The DSD, she was, like I said, she was very nice. She even said that they have a new grad program. And I feel like this is my time to shine because, you know, that's the biggest thing. We work so hard to get through school, and then where are we going to be employed at? You know, you have no experience. But they do have a new grad program. So this is like, I feel like for me to be able to stand out and show my initiative and the kind of person I am, the kind of nurse I am, so they could be like, oh, I remember her, you know, like, oh, she has a job. Like I said, they do have a new grad program. So I'm keeping that in mind, that that's an opportunity when I graduate waiting for me. Because, you know, like I said, there were other nurses who attended my school that works there, and they said they started working there like a month within, you know, them graduating from our, you know, school. So I have to find that balance right now. But like next week I have exams basically every day. So it's a lot of studying. Actually, I may look a little tired. I just got off a 16-hour shift, but I said I still have to come home and make sure that I produce this content and give it to you guys, because I want to stay dedicated to my goals for YouTube as well. You guys are depending on me and sharing my experience and my journey. So I am going to go ahead and wrap this video up so I can go get some rest before I go back and do another 16. You know, hard work pays off. So I know the future is going to be greater later, so I'm not worried about it. But that's my clinical experience of day one. I hope you guys enjoy my video and my experience my first day in clinicals. If you guys had something similar, you know, happen to you, or you guys are about to start clinical and don't know and want to know more or anything, feel free to comment below. I am open to discuss with you guys and share more as time goes on. I will start eventually vlogging so you guys can really start to see like more of the days in and days out through this journey. But I'm getting there. No pressure. But it's coming though. So, well, thank you guys for tuning in this week, and I look forward to seeing you guys next week.
Yeah, I know you really wanna ride this way. She says she wanna leave and take it to my place. Baby, I can get your body right. You're the only one I want tonight. Little mama do it so when she do